Hello fellow tankers, this is Dauntless and welcome to Scout Guide. For this episode, I'll be showcasing one of the most iconic scouting maps in the game, Prokhorovka, or alternatively Fiery Salient. Now this map is pretty awesome because it's a huge map and there are a lot of opportunities for light tanks. This is one of the best maps that you can use to get your light tank missions for your personal missions, and there are two options that I like to take when I'm in a light vehicle. Actually, there's three. The first option being that you can just kind of rush back and forth in the middle here and spot enemies. Now, I personally don't like this approach because usually you can get yourself killed very easily if you're a little bit reckless. And really, you're not doing that much for your team, only because anything you do spot will be on the other side of the ridge. And when that happens, nothing's going to be able to hit it except for maybe Artie. And so because of that, I do like to be more passive on this map, and it can be very, very rewarding. Again, the 1-2 line is the other location that a lot of players like to take, and then the alternative location, the 9-0 line, which I don't think a lot of people know about, is actually amazing for spotting, and I personally like to take the 9-0 line. Now, when you load into a game, you really want to look at the heavy vehicles and the tank destroyers on your team and on the opponent's team, because the tank destroyers and heavy tanks are going to be, all the farming of the spotting damage that you can get by, and they're going to be most likely located in the 1-2 line. If the enemy has a lot of heavy tanks and tank destroyers, they're probably going to be sitting down here, or if you're on the other side, up here. And then again, if you have good tank destroyers on your team, going to the 1-2 line is very, very effective, because not only do you have a lot of hit points for farming that assist damage, but you have things that can actually engage. So I'll show you the most popular location that a lot of people like to play, and I personally do not like this location just because it's very, very risky. If they have good light tank players on their team, there's a good chance that you're going to get lit when you push here, and it's a huge gamble. If you're like me and you like to try to get marks of excellence in your vehicles, taking gambles like this early in the game is, it can be devastating. If you're at 94% and you're like, oh, I can get a lot of assist damage to get my mark here, and you push forward and you get one-shotted by a 183, your marks are going to drop quite considerably. So again, it's a very risky location, but once you get here, you're pretty much set for the rest of the game. Now, you want to make sure that you're deep enough in this bush, because if you're sitting back here, anything in the field that kind of peeks around can light you, so you do have to be careful. And sometimes you'll spot things very, very quickly like this, and it can be really rewarding, and you'll get a feel for what targets you're going to be able to spot in the future. And sometimes you'll sit here for the first 10 minutes and you won't spot anything until the pressure is put on. Really, once you get to this location, it's such a good one that you do want to stay put. You do want to push forward like this, because if you're sitting back here, you won't be able to get eyes on anything in the field. So it is important that you push forward like this. Again, be very, very patient. Do not fire your gun, because you will get lit and just evaporate. But as you sit here, you will be able to farm a lot of damage. Now, let's just say that your team has completely wiped out the rest of the map and there's just a huge cluster of vehicles left remaining. What I like to do is actually drive back around this bush, get over to the side of the hill, and kind of drive alongside this ridge, peeking up and down on the other side of this road and getting lights. Because if you drive forward like this and attempt to light anything here, you're going to get yourself killed. So again, always play smart. Don't think, okay, I already have 7,000 spot damage and there's 4 vehicles left, I'm going to rush forward and spot them. Still be smart, go around and drive along this ridge. That way, if you do get lit, you can drive down into the gully. Alright, so the second location that is just as viable, in my opinion, is up on the 9-0 line. Now, I kind of want to break it down for you a little bit, because there are two different bushes that you can take. One is slightly better than the other, but one is more risky. So let me try to break it down for you the best I can. This location is very strong because you can actually light anything that is going to push the hill and prevent them from actually taking it. Now, the first location that you can take is actually this bush right here. Now, I'm not going to show you how to play it, just because all you really have to do is push forward. Just make sure you're in this clump right here. And what's beautiful about it is that there's actually a narrow corridor that you can spot anything that's going to be popping up into the hill here. And you can sometimes even spot things that are going to be down here, anything that might push across here, and the most importantly, push over here. Now, a lot of the times you'll have guys push the hill, and they won't be able to light things here, and they'll constantly spamming the tanks in the middle, like, light the middle, because they're getting just slaughtered. Well, if you're sitting in this bush, you have the view range and a clear lane of sight down into this area, and you'll be able to spot anything. And again, this is awesome because as a light tank, you want to have vision on multiple directions at once, and because of this, you can farm a lot of spotting damage. Now, it is a little bit risky because sometimes you do get lit there if something pushes the hill, and even sometimes tanks down here can, sometimes shoot you by accident if they're trying to shoot at something that's behind you or even spot you. So you do have to be careful. This is a somewhat safer location that you can take initially, and then you can move to the second location. That's usually what I do, take this place first and then take the second one. But again, it depends on your playstyle and how you want to play. Now, I usually like to sit here, and you can get pot shots because you are double bushed at anything that's down here as long as there's nothing up here. And sitting in this location will guarantee that you spot anything that tries to take the hill and anything in the middle of the map, your allies, and even sometimes tanks that are down here will be able to shoot up at them, and it can guarantee that they won't take the hill, and you'll also farm a ton of experience and spawning damage. Alright, so let's talk about when you spawn on the southern base. Now, in my opinion, the southern base is a little bit better in both the 1-2 line and the 9-0 line, and I will show you why. And when I say better, it's not just, better spotting, but actually a little bit safer as well. I feel like when you spawn on the north base, you have to take a lot more risks to take these locations, while when you spawn on the south, they're quite a bit more comfortable. And for the 1-2 line, this is because the bush is actually set a little bit further back than you would have to push on the 1-2 line when you spawn on the north. This is the bush that you would take when you were a light tank on the other side, and then this is the spot that you'll take. Now, you'll notice on the mini-map that their spot is just a little bit closer towards the enemy than we have to be. And you don't want to take this location up here immediately, because if you drive up to here, if you get lit, you really have no means of escape. Whereas here, there's a little bit of a dip, so if you do happen to get yourself lit, you will be able to back off. Now, it is important to be patient here, but as the game progresses and you do start noticing that really nothing is going to be able to spot you here, there's no light tanks, it is okay to move up to this second location up here. And once you're in this location, you can pretty much spot everything that's hiding. It's amazing, and this is where you just have an amazing game when you're in a light tank, where you have good players behind you shooting, and you have all these juicy high HP targets that you can light up. And it's not uncommon to get anywhere up to 8,000-10,000 spotting damage to be able to complete your missions by doing this. And much like I told you when you spawn on the north and you try to spot, if you do try to push these guys when there's a few of them left that you want to spot, I wouldn't necessarily push completely forward, but again, take the road down, get to the other side of the road, and then kind of play the ridge, and when you get lit, you can easily duck away. Alright, so I wanted to show you guys a little bit of a bonus location. Now, because this map is very popular amongst light tank players, it is very common to push up to the location that you want to on the one line and get yourself lit by an opponent light tank that's trying to do the exact same thing you're doing. And this is why this location down here is actually pretty strong, because you're able to spot them before they can spot you. And because of this, you can actually eliminate their light tank and then do what they want to do. Because if you had pushed up really quickly, you would have probably got yourself killed like that lightweight. So the location here is right between these two telephone poles, and this location is quite strong. It's not quite as good as getting that elevated vision from the bush that's back here, but you are able to spot quite deeply into the enemy base, and if they do have heavy tanks, which are easier to spot than tank destroyers, then you will get some really decent spotting. Again, there's a nice long corridor here, and as long as you're sitting here, nothing really in the field can spot you because of these bushes. And if these enemies tend to push, or they happen to push up, all you have to do is back into this bush and you'll be completely safe. If you do happen to get yourself lit, all you have to do is duck down into this hole and you will be good to go. Alright, so the last location I want to show you is up on this hill. Much like the north base, the south base does have the option to be able to spot. And it can be really frustrating for players, because I feel like a lot of players think that they have to push all the way up here to spot these vehicles. And because of that, it's very risky. You get yourself lit up on the hill and you can get evaporated within seconds. But this is my favorite location on this map. Make sure that you're pushed forward enough to be able to see through this bush here. And if you're pushed forward enough, your commander's hatch, if you're in a taller light tank, is actually high enough, even if it doesn't seem like it, to be able to see above here, like that M103 right there. That was me spotting him. And I'm also spotting these vehicles here. This is actually all me spotting these vehicles, and it's beautiful because anything that's behind you on the hill, as well as anything down here, even vehicles here, will be able to shoot them for you, including Artie, and you can get a lot of spotting damage like this. One other thing I wanted to point out too is that, let's just say that the hill gets completely taken and your allies are all dead. You do have, let's say, support back here and maybe even down here, but you're the only one left on the hill. Surprisingly, if you're in a good light tank and you have a lot of camouflage, if you back yourself up down to this hole and get yourself completely behind this bush, it's very, very common for heavy tanks to just push along this edge because they don't want to get lit. And so they push along this edge to push all the way through here, and they don't even notice you're there. And I've gotten tons of spotting damage because you'll have like 2 E5s and IS-7 full life just coming across here, and you have so many guns down here that you get like 6,000-7,000 spotting damage by just sitting in this bush right here. So that's just another little tip that I'll leave with you guys. Anyway, hopefully you found this guide to how to spot these maps helpful. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you give it a like down below, and if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel for more content like this in the future. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, you've been awesome, and I'll talk to you guys later.